starting side this week. What's excited you about those players coming in?
Yeah, Nick's on his home turf, and just gives us a bit of voice. Belly is back, Angus Bell, Marika Korombeti in place of Filippo Dungunu after he got injured last week. Max Jorgensen on the bench. Exciting young player who's been selected for, I think, 3 Wallaby squads and hasn't quite been able to get onto the pitch. So we're looking forward to seeing him. Ben Donaldson in on the bench as well, and so there is a bit of a change up. Suru Uru, they were offered different things, and it'll be interesting to see how they go. There's a few injury enforced ones. I thought Nick Frost was really good for us last week, and certainly his height and athleticism is something that you'd like to have against the Springbok, but Angus Blythe is also a big lad, and he is very motivated to get stuck in. So hopefully, Angus gets a good run at it as well.
Joe, with Marika, actually he's played 59 tests. With obviously, I remember what he did a few years ago against the Springboks down in Adelaide. What do you want to see from him this week? There's a bit of X factor on the way.
I just felt we didn't get into the aerial contest last week. I think they kicked 7 contestables and got 4 back. We didn't get any of ours back, and I think it's one of the vital sources of possession, in that you can capture it in behind the defensive line to a degree, and they then spread it very quickly and efficiently. Willie LaRue's obviously his passing game. This week they've got Fussy there, who's got a very good strong carry game. He's a big man. So either way, you want to be able to get those back, and you want to be able to defend yours better.
Joe, we've obviously got Angus Bell coming back in after some difficulties with his toe. He had to get his foot essentially reshaped. Is there any kind of nerves about him coming straight in to face a fairly formidable South African front row?
Well, you've got to start somewhere. If it's not here, the Argentinians looked pretty good last week as well, and if it's not them, it's the All Blacks. So the nature of this competition is we've got 3 out of the 4 semi-finalists from the World Cup in a competition with us. So there's nothing that's going to be easy. So why not now? Angus is confident. He's worked hard, and he's feeling well able to get started. I think starting him allows us to better control his minutes a little bit as well. He goes straight from the warm-up, builds a rhythm, and gets that confidence to go straight into the game rather than bringing him off the bench, which can be a bit more complicated.
Max obviously has recovered from his hip injury, and obviously before that the World Cup. What was it that you saw in Max that you thought, yeah, now it's time to hopefully give him his debut for the Wallabies?
Yeah, he's trained really well with us. Max has trained well, which gives him confidence, which gives the players around him confidence. He's one of our quicker players. He's good on his feet, and for a young man who will be stepping into the test arena against the world champions, he has a quiet confidence about him. At least that's my perception. I've had a couple of brief chats with him, but I sense that he's ready to go.
Joe, against the Springboks team last week, huge team, very hard to beat at the breakdown, at the scrum. Was there ever any stage where you thought, maybe I need to expand the international cavalry beyond Marika, or you're still very happy with the team and the squad that you've got to take on a team like this?
Yeah, we obviously lost Taniela, and Taniela won't be playing for us again this week, so he would add a bit of value in the scrum without going overseas, and it's not like there's a wealth of overseas players in the tight 5. Obviously I've had a few conversations with Will, and it's a little bit complicated through the rugby championship, but it's not to say that he might not appear at some stage in the championship, or certainly later in the year, but we are pretty committed to trying to grow some of our own resources here. We've used over 40 players so far, and so I know we've got to win tests straight away, and we're very focused on that. But we're trying to build a group of 45, 50 that that best vaccinate us against injury, particularly injury and double injury in the same position. You know, at the moment, you know, we've still got Dave Parecki on the sidelines. Angus has just come back, so you know and Tanella's not available. So we have been without three of our probably recognised front rowers from last year.
Just on the front row, you started Matt Feather for the majority of the games at Hooker, but you bring Josh Matcher in for this one. Can you explain just the thought process behind that?
Yeah, it's part of that. Exactly what I explained. We're trying to get a good look at everyone and give opportunity. And Josh, he's just worked really hard and done a good job. And you know, Matt has done a great job for us as well. Played really well in those Welsh tests, and we just feel like bringing Billy in on the bench this week as well. We just kind of promoted one and the other, and Matt will get more opportunities going forward as well. So it's not, it's probably not a form-based thing. It's just an opportunity. And Josh has played a fair bit of tight head. He is a strong scrummager, and I think he'll just give us maybe a little bit more ballast at scrum time. That's not to say that Matt or Billy don't scrum well as well.
Just back on Max, when he comes off the bench, do you think South Africa will try to target him, and if so, how do you think he'll handle that extra attention?
I just think in the modern game, it's very hard to target someone illegally, obviously, because of the TMO and the consequence of targeting someone illegally. That they may try to put the ball on top of him, but he's good in the air, you know. And as I said earlier, my perception of him is that he'll be going, yep. He'll be keen for them to kick it to him so he can get his running game up and going. So it's hard if you start trying to zero in on one individual player. You can sometimes distract yourself from what's working really well for you anyway. So I don't think teams too much go out to target an individual, particularly when they're coming off the bench and you don't know when they're going to appear anyway. And I think they have got a few new guys into their back line that they'll be just looking to blend in as best they can rather than focus too much on us.
Yeah, and just speaking of their changes, some people are saying it was disrespectful, so many changes from one game to the next. How did you view that situation?
Probably the same way as we're trying to work out, you know, a broader squad at the moment. I just see them as, having been involved in international rugby for 10 years, you've got to be transitioning your squad. I think they had, I don't know what the number was, 30 or plus last week, in their 23. So there is a necessity around building a depth in your squad. And the other thing that my perception would be, South Africa have depth. You know, you look at it's a couple of Bulls front rowers and Grobler and Vessels, and then you've got Thomas de Toy, he's a big man, you know, a tight head. So I think the element of risk for Russie is an element of confidence he's got in his own team, not aiming up at something regarding us. And he's demonstrated that he does like to chop and change a little bit. But there are some guys you notice stay pretty consistent. I don't see Peter Steph de Toy get too many rests because he's a freakish athlete. You know, and I think they've got about 500 caps on the bench, so if there are cracks, they've got some decent cement to put in them.
Joe, how are you balancing that need to create depth that maybe hasn't been there, building a squad which is going to be resilient enough to take on the Lions, but also that short-term need in Australia where at times people are match by match expecting test wins? How are you finding that balance between long-term and short-term?
Yeah, working really hard to try to get the best balance. We are very short-term focused. We don't talk to the players about anything that's coming up. We're Argentina or the All Blacks or the Spring Tour, whatever, none of that ever gets mentioned. It is about who we're up against, who we are, how we play, and trying to best demonstrate the the most positive aspects of that. And we missed some things last week. You know, the first 2 attacking kicks that we tried to put in, they were easily received and without pressure. So, you know, when you're trying to get access into a game, a 9-4 penalty count in the first half just meant that we just couldn't get a foothold in the attacking half. And you know, you live life in your own half or your own 22 long enough with a Springbok, it's pretty hard to stop them scoring. Not that I admired the way the players scrambled, and I thought we saved a couple of situations that looked like they could have scored from, and then fought our way back off the line to get back into the game. But at the same time, you know, the disappointing one with, you know, the ball being loose, we stopped them all, ball goes loose behind and we just lose a bit of our connection. How many times does a bouncing ball end up in a try? You just got to stay connected in front of it, and we didn't quite do that. So that one particularly was disappointing, but in the lead up to that we'd done some really good work, so that's probably exacerbated the disappointment at the time.
Joe, is the hope that Nick White will take a little bit of heat off Noah Lolesio? This week they played together a lot at the Brumbies. At times last week it almost looked like Noah got in his own way a little bit.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of responsibility falling onto Noah's shoulders, and when you're a game driver and you're in a new team and you're trying to drive the team around the field as well as play your own game really accurately, I think inevitably you sometimes, you know, struggle to see all the spaces in front of you, because you can't see past the big South African boys that are coming your way. So it does. I'm hoping that it's not so much a Nick that takes the pressure off him. I thought Hunter and Lenny did a good job last week, and hopefully they can take a bit more pressure off him. Andrew Callaway, you know, he's got good experience. As mentioned, Marika's got 59 caps, and Tom Wright's got experience, and I think they need to share the load a little bit, because I agree, Noah is he looked a little bit burdened, and if we can unburden him a little bit, he's got a good game that he can bring to the table.
Joe, it was a huge South African crowd in Brisbane, maybe something you're not used to with Ireland or New Zealand, possibly an even bigger South African crowd in Perth. How do you respond to that, and how are the players feeling about that big safe green out there?
Yeah. I was surprised in Brisbane. I know that Perth, there is a big South African sort of presence, and the expectation that Optus will have a decent cohort of green. I just hope that those Australians who come to support the Wallabies, that they put the gold on, so at least we can balance that. And in the game, it's all background noise, but you can certainly feel it when it is in your favour. You know, when you get a line break or you get a turnover, or you do something that's that's supported by the crowd. The more support for that action, the more encouragement. I think it just lifts people a little bit. So, yeah, we'd love the Optus crowd to be gold and vocal, but the reality is that there will be a balance.
Joe, what's given you confidence over the last week or so that the Wallabies can bounce back this week? There's obviously a lot of boys hurting after the loss last time, but there would have been some pretty harsh reviews and hard conversations too, maybe.
Yeah, and again, it's a balance. You know, you can't just come in with a stick and say everything's wrong. We created some nice space, and did get through them a few times and outside them a couple of times. And so we've got to take confidence from that. We missed a couple of kicks, as I said, a couple of line-outs, one 5-metre one that we overthrew, that they came back running and got to the halfway, you know, so we got punished for anything that we were inaccurate with. And so what gives me confidence is that if we can tighten our accuracy, it allows us to be more proactive physically, because a lot of our sort of contest areas, it was them bringing the physicality on the front foot, even if we had the ball, it was very hard to breathe at times, and that's exactly the way they like it. They don't need the ball to attack you, and so at the same time, I'd have to say they attack pretty well with the ball, and bringing Lakanyuam in to 12. He's got that short kicking game. That's a real weapon. Obviously, Mapimpi on the wing, Fussy at the back, but more of a big, strong running game as opposed to the distribution that Willie LaRue has. And the game that Sacha brought last week, I thought was pretty impressive. I thought we shut him down one time, and it was out the back of the hand and on a plate for the guy outside him. Those sort of things, those intangibles, they do make the job of shutting them down quite difficult. But if we can be accurate and make better use of our opportunities and that discipline in the first half, I thought we were unlucky a few times, but that's going to happen sometime, and we can't stack penalties on top of penalties and allow them into the corner or allow them an easy 3 points when I feel like it could be a tough struggle if the weather isn't or is what we expect it to be.
Last one, please, guys. You mentioned the discipline during the first half. How much of a focus is that going to this test, the idea that you need to start well? Because when Sia scored last week, it seemed to open the floodgates almost. The Springboks, and they just took control.
Yeah, certainly the score mounted, but at 14-0 with about 5 to go to half time, you're still right in it. And if you kick a 3 or you get something on the board, that you're still in the game. So I don't think you can, if you over-focus on starting well and you don't get that start, then where do you go next? So I think we just try to stay in the moment, just try to win whatever's happening right in front of our nose, and then build on stacking those small wins to try to get the big yards that we're going to need, and not get distracted by what we'd like to have happen rather than what we earn and what we make happen with the actions we deliver.